Welcome to the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Mike DeHaan and Dan Austin. From wins, losses, horror stories, and tactics for optimizing your business, Mike and Dan take a real, uncensored deep dive into the ins and outs of running a full-time real estate investment and wholesaling business.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 44 of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast. I know we're coming up on our annual sort of year here pretty quick, like our full year's worth of doing this thing.
No, we say that a lot.
I say that almost. I say that like every single week now.
It's astonishment that we're still doing this, but I got energy today, man. I just slugged 2 coffees. Been awake since 3:30 a.m. dealing with my baby, and so now I'm ready to rock and roll, though.
There you go. New child life right there. I mean, I was up at 5 o'clock this morning, but you know, I'm in the no child path. So it's because I had too many beers last night and I just kind of had like the night sweats. And
you're just like, I can't sleep. I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. The worst part is when you have those night sweats and you have a baby.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we went and played trivia last night with some friends, and
nice.
You know, we like they always have like beer deals, right? And you know, we got such a great brewery scene here in Spokane. Sometimes it's hard not to indulge a little bit.
Yeah, man. You have to indulge while you can. I mean,
yeah,
you know, they sell you on trivia, but you end up drinking all their beer.
I know, exactly. And the thing is, though, that pissed me off about like trivia and that sort of stuff is like, I know people cheat.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just like why? Like, come on, you take all the fun out of it. And like, there's no way that you knew every single answer to every question, especially when they're asking like dumb shit. Like one of the questions, because it's in Garland, which is like this little historical neighborhood here. And one of the questions was, what 3 movies are currently playing at the Garland movie theater? Right. And it's like a dinky little movie theater that's like at the end, it's like a private movie theater. And they always play movies that were in theaters like 2 weeks ago.
When we were growing up, it's
like 2 months ago, rather.
Or 2 years ago.
And someone just knew all of them. I'm like, how? Like, are you just like studying that? Like, are you a huge?
Oh, you know, the Garland historical, you know, it's a good place here in town. It used to be the dollar movie theater. Now I think it's the $1.50 movie theater, you know?
Yeah, right now. Well, they sell beer there. That's the only reason anyone goes there.
Oh, they do now. I see. I haven't been forever. Yeah. So that's good to know.
Yeah. They have a bar attached. But anyway, like when they ask that question and half the people in the room get it right, I'm like,
I know.
There's no way all of you know that. You guys all just freaking Googled that right now really quick.
Yeah, trivia is way less fun with smartphones. That's very true.
Yeah, for
cheaters.
Sure. But I mean, you do it on your smartphone, which is kind of cool, but it also makes it super easy just to cheat with it. But I don't know. I'm just bitter. I just hate losing.
Honor code,
especially when I'm losing wrongfully. Yeah. So
losing to cheaters.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy. Hey, you're winning at life. That's all that matters.
I mean, I definitely feel like it sometimes, and the other times I'm like, what the hell are these decisions that I've made?
I know, right?
You know. But like I will say, even with the ups and downs, I've had some good wins recently. I finally got my problem tenant out of my
that's huge
triplex that I own. So I have this tenant that literally stopped paying rent the second there was an eviction moratorium from COVID, April of 2020. They were like, cool, well, I guess I'm just going to be a leech now. And they stopped doing everything. And, you know, to be fair, she has always had a lot of shit with her life. Like she, you know, was in a bad spot constantly, somehow can still not find a job. Yeah. So, those people, I'm just being extremely sympathetic to her. I can't relate to her situation. But I forgot where I was going with that. I was talking shit.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Those people, like you're saying, and I've heard this story from you for many times, they always have shit going on in their life. Sometimes it's self-created, right? I mean, that's the situation. I mean, there's, I think, still two job openings to every one applicant right now in the U.S. So the fact that she didn't have a job is self-created.
Totally. Well, actually, I know where I was going to go with what I was saying, that, you know, with the size of our portfolio, like it isn't that big of a deal. The thing that pissed me off about it, though, was she was just a real bitch to the other people in the unit. Yeah. I'm like, if you're going to be a freeloader, just be like a quiet freeloader.
Be super chill. Nobody will bother you.
Don't fuck with the other tenants. Like, leave them alone.
You're the one non-paying tenant and you're trashing on the paying tenants.
Yeah, like all the time. And she would text me shit. Like she would reach out to me and she'd be like, you know, the tenant in unit number 1 hasn't picked up their dog shit. I'm like, well, maybe you should fucking pay.
You're like the person in unit 2 hasn't paid rent since March of 2020.
Yeah, right. But no, to be fair, I was extremely careful to not do anything like that or to be aggressive or anything in any way with her because I was anticipating having to evict her at some point. And I did not want there to be any incriminating things,
right, to make you look like a bad
about me,
landlord.
about her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now she's gone, so I can publicly talk
Yeah.
shit all I want. So I don't
She's
care.
some other landlord's problem.
But yeah. I mean, we didn't even have to evict her though. Basically, we just posted notice, and that was enough for her to be like, okay, cool, and she just left. But she got into some other property. So she's somebody else's problem,
man. Well,
and this is where it becomes the weird like landlord ethical issue because it's like she's moving into an apartment. The apartment company called me, just like asking questions about her, and I didn't say shit.
Well, legally you can't. Yes.
Yeah, that's
yes.
true.
She lived with you. No, she doesn't owe me any money because she doesn't, right? Like she got some sort of.
Yeah, she didn't. She got most of it paid by the government.
Sometimes they'll ask me if they have a pet, which I don't know if why that matters, and I'll be like, I don't know if they have an animal. They did when they didn't when they lived here or whatever. But like, there's only a handful of questions they can legally ask. Yeah. And then there's always like the long pause at the end, like, is there anything else you want to share? And they always pause. I'm like, no, because it's like they're not my problem anymore.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so I got that, and then a big win for me personally too is I have with that unit and then 2 other units. I have 3 unit turns going on right now, all of which require some work. And I felt that I really grew as a person because my stress level is like not.
You're getting drunk playing trivia last night. You weren't even thinking about real estate. Yeah.
Totally right. Whereas like a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have been so stressed.
It's kind of cliche though too, but I think part of it is that you've established a team too.
Totally. And that's the thing delegate. Is, they get that stuff taken care of. I just texted like 2 people and everything's getting done. I didn't even have to go to any of the units. Yep. So, which
is tough when you're like a solo landlord, like you have 1 or 2 units, because it's hard to keep those types of people on your team or your squad. You can still do it. I mean, that's how we started. But when you have enough work that you're calling a person once a week or every couple weeks, you're at top of mind for them and you're a consistent income for them, whether they're a handyman, a carpet person, or whoever. It definitely helps to have that. And then you have that well-established team because scale makes this business so much easier. It's less stressful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I'm a big believer if you're going to do real estate, you probably should do it at some level of scale. Like you shouldn't just do one, because if you just have 1 rental property and something goes wrong with it, you now have a personal liability on your finances. If you have it doesn't have to be like big scale. If you have 5 rental properties and one of them's, 5 units and one of them's vacant, like the other 4 can probably carry that one that's vacant, for at least a little while. It's probably not gonna be able to replace the roof on that one that's having issues, but you can at least carry the monthly.
Yeah, if you have that big, weird, crazy black swan event, you're a little bit safer, right? Or you have that the COVID. I mean, that's a black swan event. If you have that one property and they weren't paying rent and you're just covering that mortgage the whole time, that might entice you to sell it at a time for a price you shouldn't sell it for to people like us.
I mean, how many houses did we buy like that over the last couple
absolutely
years? Like quite a few, so many, especially there were people that were overly nice and they housed people that were already causing them problems before COVID. When they had the ability to take care of the situation and they chose not to, and then COVID happened and then they officially feel trapped, and then they decide to offload their properties, and then we're the bad guys at that.
So. I know, but I mean, it does still speak to like, I mean, if you're going to do 1, why not just do 5? I think 5 is like a solid number too, because it's if you're going off of maybe not right now's average house price across the US, which is probably like 350, but maybe say it was 200, just for easy math, and you had 5 and you own them and paid them off, and there's $200,000 worth of equity that somebody paid off for you. That's $1 million, not including the 2 to 3% on average. It increases over that time that you owned it. So if you just think about it, this is the way I think about it. Like if you're like a higher income earning person, you've had a 401k your whole life and you just work for that same company, you probably today are retiring with like $1 million, which is not bad. It's $1 million. It sounds cool, but it's not a lot enough to live off of, like really luxuriously,
Yeah, not for 30 years.
Yeah, you'd have to keep it invested and all that sort of stuff. But then you can essentially, with very little effort, buy those 5 properties over, say, a 10-year period and literally easily double your net worth by the time you retire. Yeah. That's kind of what I like that. Even if you didn't collect cash flow, because you did have that W-2 job where you were, putting money in your 401k to get whatever, lifestyle you wanted when you retired get to that $1 million or whatever. But then you can double it by just like keep throwing that cash flow into those properties to keep them really well maintained. So you don't have those weird nights where you're like, oh God, my roof is leaking, because you've already established a good roof. Yeah. And now you've got $1 million to $1.5 million by the time you retire, just sitting there in equity.
Yeah, we're using leverage, right? Like, if you use, especially if it's cheap leverage, that's the easiest.
And then you sell them, you sell them on either seller finance, or you 1031 them into a syndication where you're going to get a quarterly distribution or something like that, $1 million, $1.5 million into a very, very passive when you retire and you're tax free. Holy cow.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, honestly, selling the seller finance, that we've been pushing pretty heavily with sellers right now, especially older sellers looking to get out and they don't want to pay taxes. And for us, money is expensive. Seriously, sell it to us on seller finance. You'll keep collecting residual income. We'll pay you way more for your property than if you bought it cash. And you're not going to have to go on the market and get beat up by a bunch of sort of retail buyers. Yep. So, yeah, it's funny. After you kind of learn about that and the tax strategies, it's hard for me to ever want to ever justify selling a house. Just, like one that I've held for a long period of time. If my objective was not to flip it, just like selling it normally, why would I ever do that? It would make way more sense for me to sell it on a wrap, or to pay it off, sell it on seller finance, or to do a 1031. And
realistically, it also leads you to believe you should never flip a house either. With the tax, from a tax perspective, right? Because you're going to collect the depreciation, and you're going to be able to defer taxes while you own it. And if you have the reason why we flip houses is mostly so that we can continue to grow our business and continue to go out and seek other opportunities that are better buy opportunities. If you had a BlackRock or another trust fund, another giant fund out there, hedge fund that has basically unlimited dollars, they just buy shit. They're not out there trying to flip houses. They're just buying stuff.
No, man, we flip houses so we can afford our Ferrari payments.
That's true. My Ferrari payments, I've already looked at it. It's like $1,750 on an 84-year or 84-month. No.
Yeah, on an 84-month. Yeah, right. $1,750. That's actually not bad. You got to commit for that long, and it is. Some people would argue that those assets do appreciate. We really should get Ferraris. We would. Definitely, the instant investor program would explode if we got Ferraris.
Hey, I'm down
with those, man.
You got a space in your garage?
Or
to park it. You're gonna have to get rid of your gym.
That's the problem. Yeah, I don't think Ferrari's worth that to me. We could just go rent one. We just got to go to Las Vegas and rent one, like all the other kid influencers do. When they're trying to be YouTube stars, they go rent a Ferrari for $1,000 for the day. And they just go take a bunch of photos with it, go hire some strippers. You're hanging out with the Ferrari and your strippers, and you're like, hey, this could be your life. And you're like,
trust me, you don't have that lifestyle. If you do, it's not lasting very long.
No. Yeah, and you see those women; those are professionals.
They're professionals.
You couldn't even do that if you wanted.
Seriously. Oh man. Yeah. Anyhow,
but anyway, so we got. Yeah, stuff's starting to, turn up. It's getting a little bit interesting. You're crushing it on the dispo side. You've taken over the dispo side of our business fully.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about it recently. We have properties last week. We had properties in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 states in escrow. I think that are I think that as of last week, we just closed 2 earlier this week. Outside of our home market, we should be closing a couple here soon in our home market. It's kind of crazy. There's still buyers out there. You just got to find them. It's a little art.
Yeah. I think you just got to work for them. And I think, what you're discovering, as you've taken over this side, how important it is to really have a process associated with that. And, that there is work required on that side of the deal. I think that's the boomer real estate mentality of everyone. If you have a good deal, you'll find buyers. That is not
because
true.
We've had to take down good deals ourselves that we didn't want to take down and flip because we just didn't have the right buyer for it. because we didn't have the right processes, which is fine because we had a great process on the other side of things, on the flip side of things, or the renovation side of things. But it's like, how do you know who to call? Like we've talked about these 2 little tiny homes we have. Like, we don't have to do anything with them right now. They're fine. But I'm just exploring disposition opportunities with them and hitting up other people that I know do new builds, that I know that would want to buy these as land, because the homes are so small that it almost could be a net positive if you demoed them. And like, I've been just slowly throwing that out to like 3 or 4 people a week and just getting their opinions on it. Because if anything, I'll learn something from them on what the value is and where the value's at with them that we weren't looking at when we initially bought them. And then, best case scenario, we find somebody that's like, yeah, let's partner and do some new build duplexes on or something like that. Who knows? But it's like that consistent process of like, well, we have these coming down. We know we know like where we're at with them now, but what could they be? And then same thing with when you get deals. It's like, just because you have a buyer for that one deal, like, perfect, easy. Still looking for other people out there to say, hey, how does this deal land on you? You looking for something like this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's always huge, is to be floating out opportunities to people, because, you never know what's going to come your way, that you could have something that you weren't really expecting to part with, or we don't necessarily need to part with, but you get a deal that you're like, well, that's a no brainer. And also too, it builds credibility. If people feel like you are a creator of, opportunities yourself, and you have these opportunities for them to invest, they're going to engage with you more, going to be more inclined to do business with you in all different facets, not even just, transactional like that. They're going to be more likely to bring you stuff. They're going to be more likely to make connections with you. They might, even if they don't buy one of your deals that you have, they might know someone that will. Or if they find someone, you don't have any deals available, people that you've been talking to might know people that are also looking for deals that they would send your way. It's just like everything else. If you become the guy that has that, you can build that brand of being a strong dispositions person, and this is somewhere that we've unfortunately fallen behind in the local market, especially looking at, there's one company here that does it very, very well. They're kind of known as the guy. But if you can establish that, like, it's easier to move stuff, like all the time, and it's easier to just have more opportunities. And not only that, but you get larger margins on deals, because people will have the perception that you're the deal guy, and they will probably come and overpay for your deals, even though they don't need to, because they're the only one that's bidding on it, because they have the perception that it's very competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. And that they have the perception that you're the person that has the deals, and that there's a trusting relationship there because of that brand. Just like any other brand, why people buy certain branded items, because they have trust with that brand. Might not be the best, but they buy it because there's trust with it.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, stuff's still coming down. We're still getting deals. And what we want to talk about for our educational portion today was how we find most of our deals, which is always a hot button topic. That's probably the number one thing that I get asked via Instagram, via, when I post things on Reddit, things like that. Anyone where people engage with me, they always say, like, where do you find these off-market opportunities? And people always have these really sexy, sort of views, and these people sell stuff. And we just do tried and true direct mail, which everyone always is fascinated by that. And they're like, so you tell me you send someone a letter, they open the letter, like, they'll be like, you send them like junk mail and they call you? I'm like, yes, like, hundreds of times
lots of times a month. Yeah, it is interesting, because like, even if you just look at any other influencers in their comments, like when they're going over a great deal, people are like, how do you get that deal? How do you get that deal? Like, well, we'll share it with you, because it's not that complicated.
It's really not that complicated. And there are nuances, though, to do it well, because anyone can send direct mail. The barrier to entry for it is much lower than it used to be, because there's so many different options to do so. But there's some little tricks that we do that will make it, a lot more.
There's a reason why some of those influencers that are posting those great deals, those deals are actually closed in like 2019, and they're not responding with how they did it, because they don't know how to do it today in today's market. They're not doing it anymore. Boom.
Exactly. You're completely right. So that's a whole topic for another day. We've been on the hate train.
It's because you got haters now, man. I got to hate with you.
I know. I do have my first hater. But anyway, we're going to talk about the Instant Investor Program really quick. And when we get back, we're going to talk about how we effectively do direct mail every single month to be getting deals on a super regular basis. So we'll be right back. The Instant Investor Program is our 12-week group coaching program, which includes a self-driven course and access to our private investor community. We will take you through the full process of how we find our leads, how we market, how we do our sales and follow up, and how we determine the best strategy for every opportunity that comes our way. On top of that, you will also join a community of other like-minded investors nationwide that are all marching towards the same goals, and you will have direct access to Dan and myself so you can continue learning and growing with us as we continue to adapt and grow our business. So whether you're a new investor or already established, our systems can help take you to the next level. So if you think you might be a good fit, go to theinstantinvestorprogram.com and schedule a call, and we can have you talking to motivated leads in as little as 2 weeks. All right, direct mail marketing for off-market real estate deals. It's one of those things that people tend to shy away from it because of the upfront cost. People tend to sort of hate on it because they don't believe that it's actually real, because everyone's like, it's antiquated, right? Who uses the post office anymore? You know what? Old people and people with financial problems who don't really know how to use the internet. Those are
right. Well, I don't disagree with people because I do not use that. But as a marketeer now, I do look at my junk mail more and I do study it, but I still throw it away. So I don't disagree with you people, but I'm also not the demographic. I have a great position on my home and all my rental properties. I'm not looking to sell, so I'm probably the wrong guy.
So right now, you never know in the future. We know there are definitely other investors that are becoming motivated sellers right now because we've been talking to them. But so the main way that we find most of our deals is with direct mail, and it's not just like we pull a list of every single house in the area and just send mail to all of them. That would be not cost effective, but there are methods that we do that make it much more effective. And so I'll start basically from the top of it. Is when you're sending direct mail, the cost is going to be much higher than if you're doing cold calling or texting or something like that. But the advantage is you can be much more strategic about who you target, and you can guarantee that there will at least be, you're going to be getting in front of them for the most part. You're always going to have stuff that comes back because it's like wrong address, things like that. But whereas like a cold call where you're kind of just like hoping they pick up, when you send a letter, you can guarantee with a pretty high percent of certainty it's going to at least get to them. Right. So,
right. Yeah. Because the problem with cold calling is that if you're doing it on any scale, you're going to have at least a triple line dialer. It's going to be dialing like 3 numbers at once, and whoever picks up first, if any, is who you're going to talk to. So you may just burn through those phone numbers really fast.
And then, when you do pick it up, you now have to do a really cold sales process because they didn't reach out to you. Whereas with direct mail, it's warm because they have gotten information about you and your business. They have chosen to give you a call. Right. So the first thing that makes it very important is, you want to use a list pulling system like we use PropStream. If you go to propstream.com/MikeInvest, you can get a discount on your first month. And what you can do is you can filter by people that have distressed situations. So, whether they're filing for bankruptcy, they have liens on their property, the property's vacant. Those are all things that you can search for because it's all publicly recorded within PropStream. This is something that we push really heavily with the Instant Investor Program, is how to actually optimize these lists and this data to make sure you get in front of them. But if you pull those groups and you mail to them directly, you're going to have a much higher success rate because you know that those people, or at least you have a strong reason to believe that those people have a high likelihood of having a situation where they might need to sell their house at a discount in order to bail them out.
So when you say, I want to step back. So when you say optimizing the data, like why is that important?
So the reason it's important is because if you just send it to everybody, most of the people that you're sending that to aren't necessarily going to have a reason to sell at a discount, right? And that's one of the reasons that so many people don't believe that this works, is they're like, why would anyone sell you their house for 60 cents on the dollar? It's like, well, you wouldn't, but you're also not the target demographic, right? But our average response ratio is about 1%. So, 1% of the people that we send these letters out to give us a call. And out of those, probably about, I would say, 1%, not 1%, like 10% of those actually turn into a deal, right? So the number that you're shooting for is really, really small, like that you're actually expecting to get back, but you still have to mark it out.
Can I do the numbers? Is like, so you're saying 1% response rate. So we spend, say, 5,000 letters to our market. We're expecting
50 calls. 50 calls. 500 would be 10%.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, it'd be 50 calls.
50 calls, and then 5 of those will convert 10%.
Like that would be freaking sweet. So I can take the number back. Probably be about like 5%, maybe 2 to 3 is what I would expect from about $5,000 worth of mail.
Right. So, which is about a monthly campaign for us,
Correct.
which is standard. You know, if we're gonna do like, if that's our base campaign, we're going to do at least, you know, I would say 3 to 4 deals on that.
Yeah, for sure. So number one thing is to make sure you target. The second thing when it comes to direct mail, that so many people fuck this up. I don't know why, but I get letters all the time, and they like just went onto the mail house and they just select like the cheapest, like, you know, no work required by them option, and they just send that. Those mailers always look like shit, and no one's actually gonna take you seriously when it compares to like a higher quality mailer that comes through. And also, like, if you are doing that, you're doing the same thing that everyone else is. You don't stand out at all. So like it's low quality and it's the same, right? So like it's not going to be very helpful at all. So when you're sending these mailers, it's important that you add customizations to it. That be your company logo, that be, you know, different kind of envelope. You do little things to help you stand out, and it's going to get you that much farther ahead versus all the other Joe Blows out there that are sending mail, which is a lot of people.
Yeah, custom like relevant copy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so when they're reading it, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a relevant event that happened," or or you know, something like that.
Exactly. It can be in the copy, it can be in the design, it can be in the envelope, it can be in the postage, it can be something creative you put in there, like anything at all. You can put freaking, I don't know. We did postcards a while back that had like pictures of my dog on it, you know, just like things that were like, we were like the people that were mailing the dog postcards, like shit like that will really help you stand out. So that's the second thing that a lot of people don't do. The third thing, and I think this one is actually more important than any of the other ones, and it's also the hardest for people to do, is direct mail is all about being consistent, right? Over a long period of time. And one of the biggest things that so many investors do, and people in our instant investing fall victim to the same trap when they do direct mail, is they will send it for 1 month and they'll be like, I didn't get a deal. This shit doesn't work. Like, this doesn't work in my market. And I hate to break it to you, but it works in every market. And if you just do one time, you know, it's just like if you get a, you know, a piece of mail or a piece, like an ad copy for something, and you just see it once, like, oh, there's on Facebook, or you get like, you know, one letter from like this random window cleaning company, you probably just throw it in the trash, right?
Right.
You know, you see the one ad, you scroll past it, you never think about it again. Probably didn't even register with your brain. The same thing is going to happen with your business. You need to be mailing these people, the same people, consistently for 3, 5, 6, 12, 24 months. And you will start getting deals from people, right?
Right.
I mean,
well, and if you think about it, put it in context, you just said 24 months. People are like, oh my God, that's a lot. But it's like, okay, so you spent $12 on a deal that just produced $20,000.
Exactly, right. And that's the thing, is people are always like, the monthly cost is so high, and like it is, but the residual effects of that direct mail are extremely high, right? So, you know, like, sure, you send it over all these different months, people don't respond right away, but the thing that's great about a tangible letter is, you know, they put it in their drawer, they find it 3 months later. You know, they collect all of them. You will be shocked at how many people could like just keep their letters. We have walked into houses, and sellers have had a stack of our letters that's like 6 inches tall, you know, that they've kept for some reason. And they'll be like, okay, I've never called one of these before, but you've mailed me 15 times. What's the deal? And that turns into something where we make $30,000 to $40,000.
Yeah. Well, and then it builds brand trust. Like, okay, this is a legit company. They've been sending stuff to me, and you know, and I think that does help. And then maybe they saw a different advertisement of us on Facebook, or they saw on Google or something like that. And so then they start putting 2 and 2 together. It takes people time, right? And some of them, their financial troubles are just starting when we're mailing them, and they just continue to excessively get worse over that period of time to where it's a breaking point, and we're right there when they need us.
Correct. Yep. And that's the other thing too, is it also gives people the ability to sort of do that analysis and make a decision. And this is why it's also important to have that brand. So we had an episode, 5 or 6 episodes about building a brand. And, you know, if everyone is sending these mailers, they have a bunch of them. If they're able to now take their time with this mailer, go and they have the information you gave in this mailer, you know, your business name, your website, all that sort of stuff, they can go research you. You're now even more credible, right? Because they have this tangible thing that you sent them. They can go and they can see your brand and pictures of you on your website, and they come back and you're going to stand out, you know, and it's a custom letter. It's not like a random Joe Blow thing that somebody else sent. You're going to be so much more credible, right? And, but I can't emphasize enough the consistency of that. And how important that is, because as you mentioned, Dan, they could be new to their financial troubles, and after you mail them over 6 or 7 or 8 times, they've pushed it off for so long they can't deal with it anymore, and you're going to be the one that they keep seeing every single month. You're front of mind, so they call you. But also too, when there are tricky situations with people, so people have gotten divorced, house is vacant, homeowner has died, and there's somebody else that has to basically come and clean up the pieces that hasn't been privy to the situation for the last 6 years, and your letter just happens to be sitting in that house when they show up there to clean up the mess,
Right.
they're going to call you.
Yep.
We got a deal like this earlier this year where the guy had unfortunately passed away in the house, and his brother came to basically clean up the house, found one of our letters. The guy called us. We had to sign around that afternoon. It was the easiest deal ever. But I guarantee
it's a very good case study for why you do it.
Exactly, right? And we had mailed that guy a handful of times, but the number that he called off of, we track all of our monthly numbers, was a letter that was like 4 months old. And he just found like the 4
And guess
months
what
old.
they're not doing? They're not going through old man's cell phone to look for text messages and cold caller missed calls, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But they are going to see that letter, so there's a tangible proof.
Yeah.
Which brings me to one other point that you kind of made earlier, was we know, because we are marketing in several different markets with direct mail. Direct mail works in everybody's market.
It does.
It just does.
And for all asset types as well. I mean, we've
all right.
We've gotten deals and really strong leads on everything from mobile home parks to houses to industrial complexes in freaking Orange County, California. Like as complex as it gets, multifamily property, land, you name it, we've gotten deals off of it.
Yep. But the one thing that we can confidently say is that like cold calling and texting doesn't necessarily work in everybody's market.
Yeah. I mean, we know that for sure, especially because people are very sensitive to things like accents of people on the phone, especially if you're using foreign cold callers. Like if you're trying, like I know this for a fact here, because people that do cold calling here, if you were trying to use an overseas cold calling service in racist ass North Idaho, sorry, North Idaho, but you got a lot of racists up there, especially with people that have financial problems, it's not going to work. Because they do not want to talk to the person that doesn't speak like them.
Right. They're very sensitive to that.
They are. And that's an unfortunate truth of society, is there are, a lot of the people that you're going to be buying discounted houses from are colorful and they're going to have backwards beliefs.
Right.
And that's not right, but you have to freaking market to that if you want to do business. As much as that sucks, that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there's other reasons why it just doesn't work, but there's an unquantified part of texting and cold calling leads, because you might get good leads, but a lot of times you find it's just enough to keep your sales team busy, but it's also they're beating the hell out of your sales team.
Totally.
These are terrible leads. They didn't raise their hand. They especially if you're paying for a service to send you the leads and you're not managing the cold calling yourself, you call them back. Like, I don't know, you called me. Yeah. I don't want to sell my house. Like, well, the guy told me you wanted to sell your house in our CRM. I got a note that says you were looking to sell your, like, yeah, for $2 million. It's like, oh, okay. Well, your house is worth $50,000.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? They're getting their asses handed to them all day. And then you get a direct mail lead that they're not motivated to get because it's just weeded in there. Now you're wasting money on that. But the direct mail leads, they are raising their hand. They're calling you and saying, hey, I'm inquiring. They're generally speaking in a reasonable mood. They're not ready to chew your head off. They might be a little bit, wacky or crazy or oddballs, but that's okay. They're at least raising their hand, where the cold calling and texting leads, man, they're not as always motivated. Yeah. And you have to weed through a lot of stuff to find them. There's deals in there, no doubt. We've done deals on both, but like it's just a way different and something that most people don't quantify as like a pro or con of either.
Yeah, for sure. And people get drawn to those because they are cheaper per contact, but the price per contract is not that different.
Yeah, they're getting, you're getting a ton of leads, right? You might sit back and do nothing and you didn't spend a lot of money. You're like, look, I got 20 leads today. Yeah, well, 19 of them sucked. One of them was maybe okay. That might sell to you at not a discount.
Exactly. Yeah. And when it comes down to leads, it's all about, quality over quantity. And I think that is the problem that people do fall in the trap with SMS and cold calling, especially, is you're right. You can generate a shit ton of leads. And so it's very easy for someone to, and I think it's also why you see a lot of these like lead generation companies with people that do not have like good process. So they can actually do their own deals. They're like, yeah, I know how to get people to call the phone. Like, I know how to get people like to raise their hand at least a little bit. So like agree to a second conversation, is because they suck at sales. So they go and they start a cold calling company and they're like, yeah, I'll just get people to be like, yeah, I want to do that. I'm going to charge people for it who don't know that the service is actually worth fucking money.
Yeah, because the hard part is like the closing part of it, right? And so they're skipping ahead of that. They're skipping out of that and selling something else to you. And it's not that we're like totally against cold calling and SMS. We're just saying that we know that direct mail for the pound for pound is a better way to get consistent deals, which is huge in this business.
Exactly. Consistent deals. Definitely not consistent leads. The leads will vary, but it is the most consistent form of deals that us and many, many, many other investors that we know have gotten. So, but again, ultimately though, what it comes down to, regardless of what you pick, whether it's mail, it's cold calling, it's SMS, you have to be committed to doing it for a long period of time, like bare minimum of 3 months. Whenever we try anything new, we do it for at least 3 months, and then we will assess if it was worthwhile. And like, we're mature enough in our business, we can kind of analyze the prospects and like the potential upside if we don't have any immediate return on it. So bare minimum of 3 months to commit to it. And also too, you have to have a good sales and follow-up process. If you don't have a good sales and follow-up process, and this can be, in your CRM, within your team, like how you're making offers, like how aggressively you're doing your follow-up. If you don't have those good, it doesn't matter what marketing you're not going to close any deals anyway. So just save all your money and just buy houses from Dan and I instead with our
Yeah, absolutely. Because that follow-up's key. I mean, first of all, they have options, and they have options from the comfort of their home. They're sitting in their recliner calling cards or whatever they're doing. People are calling them because they're on a list at some point. Mm-hmm. So they have options in a convenient way. And also they can be a little squirrely sometimes. And so it's like, if you're not following up with them and you're not selling them on the opportunity of them selling to you, it's just a waste.
Exactly. Yeah.
Somebody else will do it for you
or
instead of you.
Yeah. And you can call the same lead that we're talking to that called off of our postcard, and like, let's say that they had a great first conversation with you and our first conversation sucked with them for some reason or another,
Mm-hmm.
but we follow up with them consistently and our sales guy like gets to work getting that done, and you forget to call them back for 4 days. I guarantee you we're more likely to get that deal, even though your first impression was better.
100%.
So, cool. Right on. So direct mail, we like it. If you have any questions about that, you can always shoot us a DM on the Instagram. I'm at Mike_invest. Dan is at InvestorMan Dan. We're obviously direct mail people. We do teach that very heavily in our group coaching, which is the Instant Investor Program. If you want to learn from Dan and myself, you go to the instantinvestorprogram.com. You can join that program. We also have a new phase of that we've just introduced. If you like the group coaching concept, but you also want some one-on-one, we have a second tier to this now where you can join the group and also get monthly one-on-one coaching from Dan and myself, where we will sit with you on an individual call and just go over your entire business for a little bit of an extra fee there. So if you go to instantinvestorprogram.com, you can get information on both of those things. And then besides that, guys, if you could please subscribe to this podcast, go download all the episodes, share this with anyone who you think might have an interest in real estate investing, or who does and actually wants to hear from people that are doing a true business and aren't just putting a bunch of fluff out there. That would be awesome. And we're looking to keep going. So cool. Anything from you, Dan?
No, I would just add, don't be surprised. Mike and I cover our podcast analytics. Mike is always surprised, like, man, this thing keeps growing. I'm like, yeah, because you keep telling people to download it. They're listening. Your call to actions are working. Get out there and download.
It does legitimately surprise me, though. I'm not going to lie. So apparently people want to listen to these two idiots talk about stuff.
A few people anyways. So anyways.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Well, next week.
Go subscribe. Talk to you guys next week.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. Please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out at collectingkeyspodcast.com for tips and guides on starting your own real estate investment and wholesaling business.